Okay, welcome to the Stop Money Anxiety Now live podcast, episode number 16. What really matters isn't what you think. All right. Welcome back to another live broadcast of the Stop Money Anxiety Now podcast. I am your host, Wei Hong from the Six Figure Academy. And
I'm Jessica, also from the Six Figure Academy.
Little delay right there. What's happening over there?
Oh, is it mine? Is it a delay?
There is
it might be the 3 hour difference.
The 3 hour difference over on the East Coast, right? So anyway, this is the podcast where we give you real world tips, strategies, and interviews with some amazing entrepreneurs on how to eliminate the destructive money habits and anxiety so that you can create a prosperous and abundant lifestyle and business free of financial stress and worry. Now, if you are joining us live today, make sure you get on Spreaker.com or download the Spreaker app. Search for the Stop Money Anxiety Now show so that you can join us in the chat room live to ask us questions, interact with us and our guest. And while you're there, subscribe so that you don't miss an episode and catch us every week. So for all the other ways to find us, go to the sixfigureacademy.com/radio for all the details. So are you still there, Jessica, or are you still lagging out?
Well, maybe. You got to tell me.
All right. Well, no, you responded fine there. It's just the first part.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
That's okay. I mean, I even our music was kind of weird in the beginning today, so I gotta.
Well, I mean, we've been upgrading our technology, so it's finding the bits and pieces. That
we've been fiddling with it, make it work better, so that we can have like an infinite amount of guests on the show at the same time. So, how was your week? I mean, you're obviously not in California, not in the studio. You're out.
Yeah, I'm all the way over here in Vermont. So I landed in Boston, and then now we're over here in Vermont. We're setting up for this event this weekend. So we're building, getting all the operational stuff, getting in place, and just tidying up the loose ends here and there. So it's beautiful.
What's in Vermont?
There's this little community gathering that me and my partner were asked to come on to and work. And so, it's really nice. It's a really nice, intimate mini festival, I guess you can say.
Yet another festival.
Yeah.
What's the capital of Vermont? Every time I think of Vermont, because I've never been there, I just think, back in school.
Capital? I mean, I don't know, but I
you're there and you don't know the capital.
I know. I don't tell anyone. Don't tell any Vermont-esque people here.
Vermont-esque? Is that what they are? Vermontians?
Vermontians.
Vermontians? Well, like Einstein always says, when why memorize anything when you can just look it up? Okay, so the capital of Vermont is Montpelier.
Oh, Montpelier. Oh, I was gonna say Burlington because I've heard that name thrown around.
But how do you even pronounce that? Montpelier?
Well, Canada's real close nearby, so
it's like,
I guess.
How do you pronounce that? It's like
tomato.
Tomato. That doesn't even sound like Montpelier. What are you talking about? What are you doing?
I'm on the East Coast. Anyways, what's new with you? I think you're playing a volleyball tournament this weekend.
Oh my
right?
gosh. No, well, that day, so this past week was fun and interesting as usual. Work was good. And this past weekend, there was a lot going on simply because of... there was a lot going on last week. We had our Q&A session. We had Jennifer Kramer online. Next week, we're going to have Stephen Griswold from Griswold & Griswold Insurance. He's done some amazing things with his business and something to learn from. But I was overbooked on Saturday. I had one, two, three, four, 5 events, and I had to actually choose which ones to go to and which ones not to. The bulk of it was for business. 2 were for personal, and making sure that I have a nice little equilibrium of both work and personal, right, on a Saturday. Well, Saturday was SmackFest 2017, which is every year. They have a kind of like a volleyball tournament where you get to dress up, and it's 4 people, co-ed, and we were team Baywatch, so everybody's wearing red shorts, and I didn't get to wear a Baywatch shirt. Other people were like dressed in like as priests and nuns,
no
which
way.
is like
Wait,
blasphemous.
Actual like
and there are people wearing togas, and there was this whole thing about, you know, men rompers. Like, there's this team called Real Men Wear Rompers, and all the guys were wearing rompers.
What? I've never heard of that.
And they had a banana team where everyone was dressed like a banana. It was fun, you know, and the, you know, Jello shots aplenty. So I was only there in the morning because in the afternoon I had to decide to go to either a mixer or a business mixer, or this thing put on by Allison and David Fagan called Spirit Summit. And I was there with remember our previous guest, Brandy Vale. I was there to support her on the panel, and I was there. I actually ended up staying there for a good 3-4 hours. Beautiful. Connected with some really amazing people, and then afterwards I had to go to a red carpet event, which was in Santa Monica, and then after that I had a birthday party I had to go to. So it was a pretty full day. I actually had to stop in the middle and take a quick nap so I could keep going.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Saturday.
Yeah, and so Sunday I did absolutely nothing, which was actually quite cathartic. Every time I sit there and have a full day and then go off to something, you know. And, you know, one of the things I was doing was, you know, looking at what is it, I was making a decision based on what's going to contribute most to my livelihood, what is going to contribute most to my path to success, to helping people, to supporting people. And, you know, I had to make that decision. And that's really was kind of the thing that I was looking at. And what I did on Sunday was I started looking at everything that went back by this past week, mostly on Saturday, and paid attention to stuff that I may have overlooked, things that I wasn't paying attention to, or things I wasn't aware of. And that actually helped a lot more than what I was going through on Saturday, because I was paying attention to things that I was taking. I don't know if I was taking it for granted, but it was just kind of took a low level on the totem pole in terms of things that made sense. And what it helped me kind of see was, you know, how important it was for me to do things that, one, resonate with me internally, and serve a particular purpose at the same time. You know, because sometimes we make decisions to do things that serve a purpose, but it doesn't resonate with us. But we know it serves a purpose, but it doesn't resonate with us. But we do it anyway because it serves it, but it doesn't resonate with us. You know what I mean?
No, that's really interesting. I mean, I like that you shared this, because I feel like, you know, it's like an intense day and then taking a day off. It's those dualities. You know, a lot of people struggle taking a day off and kind of pausing and, you know, like assessing things in a different light. Like, you know, there's like a lot of guilt that comes out from that, right?
Yeah. And that actually keeps you from making money. That keeps your prosperity at bay.
Why do you say that?
Well, I mean, what happens is that guilt and everything, some ways it gets you to poo-poo on your choices. You know, when you poop on your choices, then that basically is creating a dichotomy or a dissonance within you, you know. And so that's what happens a lot, you know, which is kind of cool, because it, you know, it kind of leads into, you know, what we're going to talk about with our guest today, actually.
And who is our guest today?
Our guest today is this amazing dude. I've known him for a couple of years now, and we've become fast friends, actually right from the get-go. I think one of the first events I went to with my coach, he was at my table doing one of the icebreakers and everything like that. And I still remember it very clearly. I'm like, who's this dude? And I thought, he seems like a participant, but he's not a participant. But wait a minute, you know? And over the last couple of years, it seems like decades has passed. For every year, it's like 10 years. We've became fast friends, and I absolutely love him and his wife. And you guys who have been following me may know him as one of my favorite Facebook Live tag buddies. Nick Hansinger. And, you know, he's, just to tell you a little bit about, he's the president of Energy Mastery. You know, he's been studying peak performance and the science of human transformation for over 20 years. I still remember in his previous lifetime, he was known as the Dark Yogi, which is kind of cool. I'm sure you can appreciate that.
Yogi?
The Dark Yogi. I'm sure he can tell you a little bit about that because of what you like to do in yoga, right? Yeah. So you probably want to get to know a little bit about that. I mean, he's a true believer that each and every human being has potential beyond measure, and has made it his life's mission to, you know, help people unlock that vast resource within. Yeah. So he does workshops, retreats, intensive trainings, and has impacted thousands of people. He teaches energetic tools, and is always is a consummate student of growth and just learning. I absolutely love this dude. I'm so happy that I'm finally able to get him on the show and have you be also experience what it means to kind of interacting with on this level, Jessica. So welcome to the show, Nick. Are you still there? Did we lose you?
I'm still here. I'm so thank you so much. I'm so excited.
Yeah. So, well, thank you so much for being on the show. I know we've been talking about this for a while to get you on, and it's, I was hoping that we'd be able to get you out in the studio so we can kind of sit and bathe in each other's energy for a little bit.
Yeah, I know. I would love to make it up. I'm sorry I couldn't make it.
That's okay. We could always do another one. Or maybe I can make it down for your podcast.
Oh, that would be great. That would be fantastic.
But so welcome to the show. This hour is all about.
Thank you both. I'm so happy. I gotta ask. The rompers, like, I have mixed feelings because when I saw it float through my feed, like my very first reaction was just no, just a hard no. But then like the other part of me is like, oh well, to each their own, and if you're really feeling the romper, like I guess go for it. But there's that other part of me that's just no, like just all kinds of wrong.
I just can't imagine it. I just can't imagine until I see it.
Well, it's like the European men's bathing suits. It's like, I get it. You don't, the tan lines are much better when you're wearing the European bathing suits. But out here, we wear board shorts and everything. And we're kind of into like the whole, like surfing communities. But so can you imagine? I mean, Nick, you surf, right? So, the European super short men's bathing suits.
Yeah.
Have you ever surfed in Speedos? Have you?
I have not. No. 100% no on that.
Maybe look into disrupting this whole thing, because we're all about disruption, right? Why don't you just disrupt the whole surfing community and start surfing?
Well, I could probably be pretty sure that I'll have a break all to myself that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And then when you're done with that, you could actually put on a romper. So there's this video out there that's around that where this total intentional redneck hick is out there, and he's like dressed up as a romper. It's like, and he's like got this chew in his mouth while he's talking. It's like, y'all think this romper thing is for girls and stuff like that. Look at this. And he's got like clips of mags, for his AK or something like that in his pockets. What? He's got it's hilarious. Yeah.
But, man, they need to come out with them in camo.
I know.
Right? Camo
I think they do, because
my God,
I have pictures. I mean, but it's, here's the thing: is that apparently it's very comfortable and very utilitarian. It's like a short onesie or something like that.
I'm sure it is. I'll let you can tell me all about it.
No, I don't need to go. I saw them. We played against them. We beat them. Okay, so enough said. If you want to see pictures, go to my personal website, and I have a whole album, and you can check it out where they're running around. It's actually. But anyway, back to the show. So Nick, typically we like to start with your money story. What is your, because the audience, the Stop Money Anxiety Now show is all about the role that money plays in our lives and how we can resolve our relationship with money. And so it's always cool to find out how, the money story behind successful people who have gone through that, so that they can share their journey with our audience.
Okay. Well, one of the coolest things I think that you said there is the relationship with. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times this conversation gets posited with particular, beliefs or blocks, mm-hmm. and all these kinds of things. And I really kind of look at it more relationally. Mm-hmm. For me, I grew up in the Midwest, so I grew up in Detroit. I lived there pretty much my whole life. I just moved out here maybe 5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And, my dad sold insurance. My mom supported him in the office. We always had enough. But that was really the story that I grew up with, was like the just enough. So my relationship with it was just enough, like, no problem, we'll definitely support you. You have everything that you need. And then beyond that, it was, I had my first job at like 14. I started bussing tables. And you look at that picture, I'm younger, or I'm older than I look, for sure. And you can imagine me at like 14. So But I was a hard worker.
6-year-old working in the restaurant.
Yeah, I got that question a lot, and there were like these really sideways looks at the managers, like, yeah, that kid's not supposed to be working here. But I really enjoyed it, and I loved having, my own money. So I had this big, roll of ones, from all the tips and everything. And he bought me my first stereo, and
nice.
That was really cool for me.
Yeah.
But that was it. Like the relationship with it was generally just enough, and you have to work super hard. Hard
just
working,
enough and super hard.
Yeah, my folks are hardworking. The family. If you trace my family back, we're talking farmers. From Germany,
right?
And growing up in kind of like middle Michigan farmland.
Wow.
And yeah, so that's pretty much what was built into my DNA. And then I was the weird one of the family. So I had.
How were you the weird one? What do you mean?
I was always kind of a weird kid, like. Just quiet, like I would just play by myself. Like my friends would come over, and my mom would tell me, oh, like so-and-so's at the door. And I would say like, I just tell them that I can't play. Like, I'm happy here. Like I'm like really kind of a reclusive kid, I just
send the kids away.
Yeah.
I don't want to play. So it's not like me where like nobody would come over and play. And I wish I had friends that came over to play, but you actually, no, I actually had some friends, but parents had to coordinate that. But you actually had people that wanted to come, and you said, no, go away.
Yeah, I did. I was happy doing my own thing, so I had this always kind of like introspective, and then it came into an artistic bent, where I was a trumpet player, and I started playing trumpet when I was 10.
Cool.
And that became my thing, so I was very much into all different kinds of music.
That's one way to keep the people away. It's like they're going to come in, blow a horn in their face.
That's right. Yeah. Or I just got that horn stuck to my face. So I can't talk to anybody.
Yeah. I mean, it just sounded like you really, from the get-go, you really enjoyed like solo activities.
Yeah, totally. Team sports, not my thing.
Yeah.
It's so funny that you're a yogi now.
Yeah. Well, kinda. I don't know.
That's a mid-step.
Myself a yogi? Yeah, that was part of the journey.
Part of the journey, right?
But that was really like when I got into music. Like, that was the thing, and it wasn't too long after that actually that it really got me thinking about peak performance and like how like human potential. Like that was a thing that came on really young for me, is because of performance anxiety. So like I'd love playing my trumpet, and I'd sit in my
Seems
room.
like a lot of guys have that performance anxiety thing.
Yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, it was a big deal for me. And
it's a big deal for a lot of guys.
Yeah. And is that true? Is that
performance anxiety?
But is it like a male thing, or is that more of a male? Oh, do you mean it? Which way do you mean it?
I mean it across the board.
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't mean to take it. Sorry.
Oh gosh.
Oh wait, we're in mixed company. Jessica, hello.
I apologize. I was just trying to get clear on the question.
It's as clear as you want it to be. By the way, for those of you who are just joining us, if you have any questions, or you can resonate with what Nick is talking about in terms of just enough or having to work hard for money, pipe in, jump on the chat. What we'll do is we'll just like air what you type, and then Nick can address it, or we can talk about it. Okay?
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'd love to see what people have to say.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but okay. So my performance anxiety specifically related to music performance. Just to clarify.
Just
that
to clarify,
part.
Yeah, we need to make sure it's clear.
So I'd sound great in the practice room, and then I'd get on stage, and then I just go to pieces, and it, with the trumpet, like you could do a lot of damage.
Oh.
You really mess things up, like
right.
So,
there's no limping in. It's just like
yeah, you got to be bold, And that was definitely a challenge for me. So it was something that I just became like really fascinated with. Of like, well, what is the mindset? What is the mental games or the mental gymnastics to go through in order to to unwind these things? Like, what is that really about? That wasn't my first part of it. Like, my first part of it really was just like, how do I make this go away?
Right.
So all kinds of stuff. You name it. I pretty much was looking into that, and eventually,
how old were you then?
I started that probably when I was about 16.
Okay, yeah.
So I'd been playing long enough to know that it was a problem. And I had also had some performances that were a big deal to me that just were, you know, in my mind, just very embarrassing and unacceptable, you know?
Right. And were you the only one telling yourself that, or were other people saying it to you?
That's a great question. No, I think I was pretty much all me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had in my section in high school, I had, at the time there was 4 of us in particular that were really actually very good, you know, at the instrument. And so there was a competitive thing, which isn't, it's kind of trained into me. I'm not a naturally really competitive person other than with myself. But with others, I'm not so much, but that was kind of in that at the time. And except
when you're magic boxing my videos, right?
Exactly. Well, then it's all me, right? I'm competing with myself. I'm like, come on, dude, you know, pull it together, man. Try to be clear. And then I would, you know, but that came into it, like that kind of competition. And it just was like, I really pressurized myself around it. And I was trying to figure out how to not do that. And I manifested the best trumpet teacher for that in the Detroit area. Really across, actually nationwide. He's a really fantastic teacher for specifically for mindset of playing, you know, and that was awesome. Like, he became a great mentor to me, and I really learned a lot about that. And it took me so far, but the piece that it really led me to, that was a key piece for me, was just understanding that there's actually a deeper path of spirituality, human potential, and you know, relationships with the things and the people in our lives. And that really kind of touched on something a lot deeper for me, that wound up, you know, taking me in a lot of different directions.
Right. And was that learning an integral part in you breaking that older money stories of making just enough, or, you know, work is supposed to be really hard, you know, to...
No, I hadn't connected the dots, actually. So it helped me be a much better performer. But I was still very much in the performing world. So the artist world, you know, is basically, you're going to work your tail off and just to make enough. And the story around that is, how do I want to say this? It's like, who cares if I make money as long as I'm doing what I love?
Yeah. Passion for your craft, right? The dedication is to the craft. And not realizing that you could have both at the same time. Exactly.
It was a very much of an either or kind of conversation. So that hadn't really unwound at all. Like, the most money I ever made through that. Then I had a full-time job. I was in personnel management for the Detroit Symphony. So that was kind of a whole nother level of like observing and kind of researching, like, how do these top performers, like, how do they do this? You know, but still, like, I'm not making a lot of money. I'm hustling, you know, outside of that to freelance, because I was really still passionate about my trumpet and I wanted to keep playing and everything like that. And still, like, I literally play every gig I could find, work full-time job plus, and still, like, maybe $50,000 was
isn't
my
that like
total max.
Isn't that problem, or isn't that challenge rampant in the performing arts industry? I mean, it's almost like a textbook thing that you got to have a job and you got to do your craft at the same time, and that it's doing whatever it takes, and just giving it your all and just making it hard, so to speak, or the perception of it being hard.
Well, yes. I mean, I won't speak for everybody, but from what I saw in that industry, I could say, yeah. Now, in classical music in particular, but really for any jazz, anybody who's going to be at the top of that game as a performer, particularly in classical music and orchestral music, which was where, that was really my area.
Right.
The bar is so high that you require that level of dedication to it. So as far as thinking outside of that, of like, as really more as an entrepreneur of, well, how can I what sorts of things can I do to advance my income? How, like what can I do to put more of these pieces together so that there are opportunities like that? It's not really like that. You're basically like gig to gig. And how can I play better? How can I play better? How can I play better?
Right.
That's really the only focus. And the opportunities around that, you can definitely get good paying gigs, but there's definitely a ceiling to that as well. So it's just not part of the conversation.
Right.
Do you feel like a lot of musicians actually take pride and, kind of in that struggle?
That's a good question. And I did see a lot of that. Absolutely. I had that myself. It was very much like, I'm proud if I can play and really represent the music well. And nothing else, and everything else just kind of took a back seat. And that same money story came with me of just enough. Like I never wanted really for money. Like I always had enough, and I was always fine, and I enjoyed my life. But that was it. That was all that I was manifesting.
Yeah. And now the marketplace is a little bit different now. You got people who are brilliantly talented and choosing not to go that traditional route of grinding your way to the top, but rather just jumping on YouTube, jumping on SoundCloud, and putting their wares out there and just promoting it themselves to get it into as many people as possible. I mean, it's fascinating, right? I'm sure you're looking back now, guys. Gosh, if there was YouTube, if there was this back then, I probably could have put out my stuff and get more gigs.
Yeah, I might have thought about it differently, but maybe not too. I still see a lot of young musicians, especially in the classical and orchestral realm. It's a little more dogmatic in certain ways. It's this thing where there's the music and like that's basically your God, so one of the things that it taught me or kind of brought out in me or gave me a channel for was that is really like a devotional quality.
Yeah.
This is it, man. If I'm playing a Mahler symphony, like, wow, this is frickin' genius. And and to just be be able to play a humble role within that majesty is really something special. It really is. It's incredible. And you just live for that. Kind of live for those moments.
I'd be interested to see if that can exist alongside with how modern technology makes it easier for us to market ourselves. There's these four beautiful, I don't know if they're Croatian or Bulgarian or Hungarian. I think they're Hungarian ladies that play classical music but with like a modern twist. So I think they all play for some kind of symphonic group. But on the side, I think they do this, this quartet thing. It's called Amadeus something or another. Beautiful. I'm totally in love with the cellist. And they do these massive like epic videos where they have all these, because they're obviously making money doing what it is that they're doing. And then they come together and they're marketing themselves as a whole separate quartet unit, going out and traveling and doing shows and stuff like that as well. So kind of a hand, and they look like they absolutely are in love with the craft, in love with the music. Every time you see them play, they're like emotionally just kind of in that flow. It's kind of like, dancing with the notes as they come off their instruments.
Quite the description. I think we should post a link in the comment section for our listeners if you have a video way.
Oh yeah, I have lots of video. I follow them.
Yeah, I want to see those. I want to see that too. I follow the two cellos guys.
Yeah, those guys are great too, and the piano guys are good too.
They're fantastic. I see a lot of crossover music and people being successful with that, and I think it's definitely important. Like it really is, and I think people are finding a way. It's the same thing though. It's like with any industry. You see a lot of colleges and universities churning out a ton of in many ways very quality quality candidates for jobs like that. It's just in the orchestral world there's not very many of those jobs at all. It's extremely competitive,
right? So you almost have to create your own prosperity. To say that it's not possible in any industry is kind of like is a falsity, right? It's not accurate because as we're seeing now over and over, there are people who are demonstrating different ways to do what it is that you love still and finding unique and creative ways to make it happen so that they can continue to thrive, and not just struggle.
I totally agree with that. And I think it's the attitude behind it. So one of the things that I saw a lot too, and did myself, is I'd play I'd play any gig that come my way pretty much. And I just kind of looked at it. I remember my words around it at the time were, you basically just, whoring myself out, for some of these gigs. So,
right.
Like that, but that was, if you want a glimpse inside my head, like that was my words around it at the time. If I didn't dig the gig or didn't dig the group that I was playing with or whatever it was, that's how I looked at it. And I was just doing it for the money. Yeah. And that was not cool either. I think, but that was an attitude. Right. It really was an attitude.
It's kind of like survival mode, right? Earlier you just mentioned that you were working so many hours, and it's like you just got to do what you got to survive.
Yeah. It was for my music to survive. I could get by anyway. Like I'm industrious that way, but it was really for me to keep doing what I love to do.
Then at what moment, was there a switch where it came from not being survive to, hey, enjoy, relax? Was there any moment that it switched to that?
Well, it didn't come until later. So what happened was I also my full-time job with the Detroit Symphony, I did that for 10 years. And then I just kind of hit a ceiling. Some things were happening. I hit a ceiling with my income there, like we talked about. And then I just really wasn't enjoying it. Like one of the things that I didn't like was that my schedule would be determined a year in advance.
Whoa.
Literally a year in advance. I could look ahead and be like, yep, I'm going to be here on this weekend. I'm going to be there on that weekend, and all this kind of stuff. And I just didn't like that anymore. It didn't pay me enough money to really warrant taking over my life in that way. And I was like, screw it, So that was when I quit that job, and I was like, you know what? This is again, a glimpse inside my head of my exact words were, screw it. If I'm not going to make the money I want, I might as well have more freedom and just do it the way that I want.
So what did you do then?
I quit it and I started teaching yoga and freelancing as a trumpet player.
Oh, you're freelancing as a trumpet player.
Yeah, that's all I ever did was I just freelanced. I played all kinds of gigs.
Trumpet mercenary.
Yep, that was it. Have trumpet, will travel.
Have trumpet, will travel.
Or both.
So you started teaching yoga, became the dark yogi while trumpeting.
Yeah. Yep, that was it. That was really actually when I did that. That transition in particular was pretty sketchy.
Yeah.
Wait, elaborate.
It was just all right. Well,
Yep.
So I was definitely smoking a lot of weed at the time, and I was in a relationship that was just not positive. And she was in whatever she was dealing with, and then I was dealing with my own thing. I quit my job with the orchestra with absolutely no plan other than screw this, I'm going to go do my own thing.
Right.
And so my money started to get really tight. I didn't know how to make money on my own. I didn't know how to hold myself accountable. I was depressed because of my relationship. I was using drugs and just totally basically checking out from life. I watched, I think it was 6 seasons of Lost in 10 days.
You got lost and lost?
I got 100% lost and lost.
I think that's why it's called Lost, because one can get lost and lost.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I did. But I was just totally checking out,
Yeah.
And that lasted for a little while, eating through my savings and then just, really struggling around that, not making money, and kind of coming back to that piece of I know that I want to do something around. Well, yoga was my means to it, but what I really wanted was to do something much more around spirituality, how you're living your life. But I was living exactly opposite to all of those principles. Guys, everything the opposite, totally opposite.
So I'm curious about that. What money story do you think was running that allowed that behavior to happen? Allowed you to to eat up through your savings, to basically kind of quit on life and for a little bit, just so that you can get yourself to this point where you would have to make a change. I mean, there's a story that runs that, right?
There's a story, yeah. And it was just, I can't. I'm a fraud. Nobody should listen to me, which in certain ways I think was actually accurate, based on my actions and choices. And also, I don't know. I don't know how to make money now, or who's going to pay me, and I started to crunch the numbers and started to get really lost in the numbers also of, I'm going to have to teach this many classes, and I don't have nearly that many classes, and then I'm going to have to play this many gigs, and I don't even know if I can do that, all that kind of stuff. Like just all the ways that I couldn't.
So where do you think you learned that money story?
It was the work hard thing. Like just needing to be right, that it could only show up in a certain way because that's the only way that it had ever shown up before. So the only way that I'd ever make money is if I show up and do a thing. And that was, pretty much the same with what I was brought up with. Wow. Ironically, I always had enough. So despite that whole story, I still always had enough.
Right.
I was just depressed and checking out from life.
Well, I mean, I think there's a part of that program and that needs you to create that perception so that you would get off your duff and actually do something.
Yeah, the rock bottom thing is definitely one way to create. Like that was it. I had a teacher and friend at the time who basically just sat me down and said, dude, what are you doing with your life?
Yeah. Wow. And that's the thing. One of our biggest motivators is how do we get people to avoid what, like you and I have gone through to hit that catharsis in order to create change? How do we get people inspired enough to create change without having to create catharsis in our lives?
Well, that's a great question. It's a belief, I think, that it has to be that way. Like that's the only thing that will pressurize them enough and be painful enough in order to make a change. That was, for me at that point in my life, like that was what I needed. I needed that kind of pressure in order to actually make a change.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's, it's just, there was no other way to do it. And it started an important, so when I think about stages, like there's 3 stages or 3 qualities, and in the Vedanta tradition, the Sanskrit words for them are tamas and rajas and sattva. So basically what that means is you've got this pretty indolent, inactive quality, which is tamas. You've got rajas, which is basically like fire, activity, passion, and then sattva, which is even-keeled state, present awareness with dynamic action. And when somebody is in a lethargic state of inertia, what is required in order to take them from that is fire. Like you don't jump right from that to the, to dynamic action and peaceful mind. You actually have to pass through the fire part first. How long you spend there is up to you. But that is a part that needs to shock you out of the inertia and propel you into action. And generally that will only happen through pain or trauma.
Wow.
So it's almost like it's a necessity of life, or
I don't know that it's a necessity.
It's just a methodology, one of the methodologies.
Yeah, it's one of the ways. Like something has to shock somebody out of that. So in the scriptures, they talk about when they describe that state, it's an embryo, and so it's really just something that you have to grow out of.
Yeah. And would you say our goal is to eventually minimize the shocks as we continue to keep shocking ourselves into movement and growth, that the shocks become less and less pronounced to a point where you don't even need the shock anymore? You're just naturally going into that state of empowerment.
Well, that's the goal. And that's, basically that's a continual work in progress. But for me in my life, like that's very much what I'm seeking to create and continuing to create. It's just not needing that general sense of momentum, positive things. But it does have to do with weeding out some of those old seeds. It's like a seed, you planted those seeds, God knows how long ago, and then they come to fruition,
right? And
it creates a really state of inertia. So there's just a huge amount of weeding out of all of that stuff in order to get to the next place. And for me, and I think for a lot of people, I don't believe it has to be this way.
Right.
But what I see a lot of is that you it takes that shocking experience to look around at your life and be like, holy crap, like I'm standing in a bunch of weeds and garbage right now.
That you can't smoke.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, oh man, all this weeds and I can't smoke it. So we actually have a couple of things coming from the chat room. Tony goes, my mentor was a real person. And I, of course, responded, he is a real person.
That must be Tony.
Yeah. Ringo Chen says, so does Nick use things like whips to cause pain in his method?
Absolutely not.
No whips. No whips there, Ringo.
No whips.
But yeah, so one of the things that you were talking about prior to us getting on this interview was that there are things you pay less attention to is what matters the most. So what were some of those things? Because what we want to talk about in today's episode is like what people think really matter in their journey to become successful, to become empowered, to become happy in their life or in their business or in their work or in their money. What really matters isn't what most people think it is.
Yeah.
That's a hard chunk, huh? Kind of moving on.
No, it's awesome. Like, and that's true. If I were to relate that to my life, like all the things that I thought mattered turned out to be total BS. Like all the things that people told me, like you're supposed to do this and you're supposed to do that. You're supposed to be this way or that way.
Give us a couple examples of what was one of those things that you thought really mattered in the beginning, but then you discovered like, oh, well,
you're supposed to have a good job.
Supposed to have a good job. And what is that? How does one define good job?
Exactly. That's exactly it. My job with the Detroit Symphony, but for all intents and purposes, was a great job for what I was doing and what I wanted at the time. But really, it just turned out that it just wasn't what I wanted. So that seemed really important.
So it could be good. It could be good and great temporarily until you grow out of it. Then it stops being good and great.
Yeah, it's all externally focused, though. So basically, anything that's outside of you is going to, is not really going to be the thing. That's never going to be the thing. But those are the things that we make most important. So it seems important to attain a certain income. It seems really important to have a particular kind of job, to have an outward success, whether it's the number of followers, number of sales that you make, the kind of business that you have, the lifestyle that you have, even all those things seem really important. And all those are the things that people are saying, yeah, like this is important.
That's what matters. And it's not what...
It's totally not. Oh. It brings it back to what you said in the very beginning, actually, Wei, is it's your relationship to those things that actually matters.
Oh, okay. So your relationship to not just money, but everything that you are making important in your life.
Exactly. Exactly. And as soon as you make something outside of you the thing, you're in trouble. You're absolutely in trouble. Your focus is misplaced, and you are setting yourself up for a problem.
Okay. So what would be an example of something like that?
Well, an income goal.
Okay.
So as soon as that becomes the most important thing, and as soon as you buy into the fact or the idea that that is going to make you happy, you're screwed.
Because you spent all your money buying into that, then you won't be able to make that.
No, you spend all your time, effort, and energy trying to create that, and then you get there, and then there's just another thing. Okay, great, I made it there. Okay, well, what's next?
Gotcha.
Or you realize what it took to create that, and then you want to create something bigger, and then you just become consumed with that, there's nothing wrong with that in itself. So I want to be really clear on that point. There's actually nothing wrong with that other than your relationship to it. If you think that thing's going to make you happy, then there's a problem. Ultimately, your peace, your joy, your freedom is 100% in your mind and inside of you and your relationship to those things.
So a question came up, says, so earning figures isn't as important as discovering what you were meant to do in life?
Yeah, that is 100% accurate.
So then how would you help someone, so say some, like, a listener is placing a lot of importance and a lot of happiness on needing to make six figures, right? So then, like, how would you guide them to saying, to change that relationship?
Well, number one is just recognizing. That's a great question. Thank you for asking that. First is really just recognizing that that thing, the happiness does not lie in that thing. Mm-hmm. So that's the first step, is just recognizing that the fallacy of that and the illusion of it. The same way that there's no light in the moon. The moon shines bright.
I love that analogy.
Right. But it's just, there's no light in the moon. And that's the same way with you. Like, there's no happiness in the, in the world. The happiness is in you. You're the sun.
Right.
Yeah. So that's step one.
Right.
Step two is recognizing, and understanding, like, what there is a very key piece of just knowing what you want to do with your life and what you want to create. And that could very well be six figures, and that's no problem. Like, that's a fine goal, and there's nothing wrong with that goal. As soon as you place and attach your worth and your value and your happiness to the achievement of that goal, is then when you're in a lot of trouble. So it's just pitching up the goal and setting it really more as an ideal for what you want to create, and then setting about creating that, taking the actions in order to do that. That's the rajas, that's the fire part, action. And what people will typically do is then get into that fevered action. Like, I'm going to go after that, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to go and do everything, and I'm going to hustle 24/7. And that is actually, I think, in a certain way, kind of necessary to build certain muscles. You just don't want to stay there. Like, you don't want to live your life like that, but there's a certain amount of that fire that is necessary to, and that friction in order to propel forward. That becomes a really key piece of just having that ideal, and then the internal detachment from it, so that you don't get all wrapped up in it. Because that's just it's gonna corrupt your action. It's gonna make everything harder, and sooner or later, when things don't go your way, now you're down in the dumps because it didn't go your way, and you're a bad human, and you're a failure, and all this other kind of stuff that's totally unnecessary.
Right.
So that's a really important step, is then just having, like, knowing where you're going. Yeah. And then the third step is knowing who the heck you are. So, okay. Now is time to really do the most important piece, which is actually assess your own character and nature, so that, because that's your starting point. And if you don't have that piece, then you're basically just, you're trying to get to a destination without having any idea where you're starting.
Right. So you kind of answered one of the questions that came up in chat, was, so how do you find what you were meant to do in life? So those 3 steps are basically taking people into that process of discovering that. Yeah.
So that's a really cool question. It brings up sort of I think a nuance around this, is like, just start somewhere.
Yeah.
If it's 6 figures, like, go make 6 figures. That's like I said, like, that's an awesome goal. There's nothing wrong with that at all. It's not materialistic, by nature. It's not anything other than a goal.
Right.
And then when you bring it back to that key step of really assessing your nature, your character, and your specific predispositions, then that will start to, as you start to move towards that goal, you'll uncover a lot about yourself. It's a massive self-discovery of, like, okay, well, what am I actually good at? What do I really, really enjoy? What do I not like about this? That maybe I either have to deal with or farm out or work around, or maybe I'm just on the wrong path as far as how I get there. But all those things start to flush out, and then that goal becomes more and more clear. I think a lot of people want this is what I'm here to do, and I totally know it. And, I don't think that's real.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, it would be awesome, but that's never been my experience. I haven't seen that with really anybody.
What if you just can't articulate it? You said, I know what I'm here to do. What is it? I just know. And I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing because I know and I trust. Kind of like what Carolyn Miss says, you're never not on your path in life.
Yeah. I think there's accuracy to that. I think as far as being able to bring that into the world, the specifics around that are things that flush out.
Right.
So yeah, you're always on your path, but like like you said, how do I articulate that and how do I embody that?
Yeah.
Well, that's something that will probably change. And if you're looking for the big answer, and waiting for that until you take your actions, like that's upside down. Those actions help to reveal and weed out all the stuff that's not really aligned with that, so that you can become more and more aligned. It's a process.
Right. Kind of like why personal development, personal growth is so important, because you can then grow into what vehicle is already there waiting for you to drive and run in life, so to speak.
Yeah. And you have the best tools on the planet in order to do that. So it becomes even more powerful, which is so cool.
I know. It's super cool. I mean, it's kind of like what Dalai Lama said. He goes, happiness is being happy for no reason. In so many words. I think I'm paraphrasing it, but he said, happiness is being happy without reason to be so.
That's awesome. It's true. I think.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah. Without hitching it on anything and just kind of like weighing it down. It's just like, those people, you ever pass those people that are just look happy and they're just smiling and walking. Who knows what they're thinking about, if they're thinking about anything at all, and then he goes, and sometimes we're around people that if you're just smiling and happy and they look at you like, what? I'm like, what do you mean what? I'm just blissfully happy. What's the problem, right?
It's funny that we get like just like we're like taken aback by people who are just like happy.
Yeah, it should be the other way around. It's like, is everything okay?
Yeah,
yeah. Everybody should be blissfully happy. And it's not to create like a utopian weird state where everybody's just ha 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 laughing, yay, and just kind of like happy over the full spectrum of what it is to be human.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about blissfully happy, but in a way that is what do you call? God, I can't think of the word right now. But it kind of like glosses over the reality of things, of how you're going through it, like not being honest, inauthentically happy.
Right. It's like the more genuine and deeply felt that emotion, the more subtle the expression of it.
Yeah.
It's not like that. It's not that it doesn't have to be, but like it's not like just wild laughter. Sometimes it's just like a really
like a crazy homeless person. Yeah,
you're right. Bliss.
Except they're not that crazy. Kind of like what our mutual teacher has said, that when the heart speaks to you, it doesn't speak loudly; it speaks in a whisper.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's true. It's that little quiet little smile that you just like, oh man, like that is so amazing. That expresses that depth of emotion. And I think there's something to be said for that. To me, that's recognizing the miracles and the wonder and the awe, like all around. That's another thing that people just totally deprioritize. Like it seems like a luxury. And that's actually one of the most important things that you could ever do in your life, is actually become present to the miracle of life and the miracles of our world, all of the things that manifest that we have just no idea about, and the interconnectedness and the intricacies of how these universal laws function and how they come in like the physical laws just of our own bodies. Man, like it's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And having even just a tiny little presence and connection to that can add so much joy to your life. Wow. It's really amazing.
Yeah, no, it is. And I have a sneaking suspicion, like this is just a beginning. I mean, you being on the show today today's episode is kind of like an introduction, because if you look at the clock, we're actually running out of time.
You said it was going to go by fast, and I didn't believe you.
Super fast. So we'd definitely. Would you mind coming back on the show?
I would love to come back on the show,
so we can talk even more nitty gritty specifics on the. But this is kind of like a nice little overview of it, introduction to Nick Hansinger on the Stop Money Anxiety Now show. Now, what I'd like you to do is tell a little bit about how people can connect with you, because there's obviously a lot of teachings like kind of layered in there from your life. So, I mean, there's so much more that I know of that you didn't even get a chance to touch on. But how do people get a hold of you? And if there's anything that you like to offer the audience to, kind of connect deeper with you to learn more about all that you have to offer?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. And thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
Well, first and foremost is to recognize that, like, I'm not one of the people who, I don't want to, like, when I work with somebody, it's not about just teaching you everything that I know and dumping a bunch of information. Like, this is an extremely personal approach. It depends very deeply on the individual and your like really and truly like your specific nature and your own what I would call like a divine track, your highest track. And it's really about identifying that and the exploration around that, and then the tools needed in order to help keep you on that track.
Nice.
So to that end, like, really first and foremost is just, who the heck are you, and learn a little bit about that and start to explore that piece and what do you want?
Right.
And there's a video that I created that basically, really talks about that, like what, understanding, the things that we typically do in order to try and create success and why they either work only to a very marginal degree or don't work at all.
Right.
Especially for people who are interested in exploring themselves and spirituality and understanding how, not just how to create success in the world, but how to do it in the way that is really and truly aligned with their highest path and purpose.
Wow.
So that's really what that video talks about. It's at nickhansinger.net/align.
Okay. We'll make sure we put that link.
Yeah, it's very much about alignment. If you have a question, like you can always just go there and check out the video. You'll have my email address from then. If you want to just drop me a message, you can just send me a message at info@nickhansinger.com. And that's that's where you can find me. I'm very accessible that way. Like, just drop me a message. Right. And the tools are vast. Like Wei mentioned, we share a teacher that is in my mind very profound. And the tools that I've gained from knowing her and studying under her are really incredible in and of themselves.
Right.
A lifetime of study just in those things. But then you put that into the context of a person's life, and it adds all kinds of richness, and that's really kind of it. That I think that's a great place to start, just to kind of see what that's all about, and then from there, it's just a conversation. Of really understanding. So I hope that helps people.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Sharing that.
Thank you. Please enjoy it and pop me any questions.
Yeah, and go over there and sign up, because if you are actually like ready to, you're chomping at the bit, says, no, I want more than just a video and stuff like that, and you want to dive in and maybe get some of the tools that both Nick and I use with our clients to get massive results and stuff like that. I think, Nick, you're actually doing, it might be a little bit last minute, but you're doing something this weekend. Aren't you teaching and training something? You have a workshop running this weekend?
Yeah. You're right. It's a whole other conversation, but yeah, energy mastery is a system of tools and processes basically to help you really and truly master your energy, all the different layers of your energy, how to clean that up, and then how to put yourself into the world in a really beautiful way that is truly authentic to who you are. Like, that's really at its core. Like, I think that's what that does. It's called Energy Mastery Foundations. It's a 2-day event. It's a live intensive. Wow. This one we're doing down in San Diego, and it's a very specific process that teaches you the tools and then how to apply them in your life. Right.
And I have to tell people, when it comes to prosperity and making money and financially getting unstuck and stuff like that, this is what we've often within our group like to refer to as the secret sauce.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the secret sauce that has taken McDonald's. No, I'm just kidding. just really taking people to a next level. If you want to get there fast. It's not for everybody, because, not everybody can handle that need for speed, And here is the train of truth, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Not everybody can handle that need for speed, but for those who can, you might as well fuel up, and that will, and learn what it means to go fast and to get to where you want to go fast. And that's, that's a lot about, giving people those options and everything. And I love their approach of it's not like a cookie cutter approach, like, hey, everybody just go in this universal bucket, but you take that unique approach to working with each individual and accessing that almost like an individual formula, right?
It's a cool way to put it. And it's really not about the tools. Like, you're basically understanding the tools. It's actually, in a certain way, is more of a technical training.
Right.
But what it actually does is help to really reveal that inner essence of who you are.
Yeah.
which is like, I can't think of anything more personal or more exciting. Like, I just love it, man. Like, energy mastery is the deal.
Yeah.
I get so excited. I love teaching it. You're gonna have to stop me. The show's almost over.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So if you're interested in that, just go to nickhansinger.net/align. Reach out to him right away if you want to kind of join him and a few of the people that we know on this weekend. I mean, if you're down to really kind of like take it to the next level, and if you're just like, you know what, I like what he's saying, I love what's coming out of his mouth, I'm good to go. But thank you, Nick. Thank you so much for finally getting on the show, and I look forward to having you back. And your better half is actually coming on in the near future as well. I'm
so excited! I can't wait for that episode. And thank you so much for having me and for letting me be a part of this. Like, I'm really just so appreciative, and I so dig what you do, Wei. Like, you're truly, you're truly gifted. At what you do, and I really appreciate that, and I love it. So, like, thank you so much for having me on, and I really look forward to continuing the conversation. Yeah, appreciate it. Cool. So just make sure you stick around a little bit after the show. We could debrief a little bit, but that's it for today, everybody. It's 1:00, and you know what? The time is near. Okay, so join us next week for Stephen Griswold. But again, make sure you connect with Nick to go deeper, to learn more about all the goodness. Join us next week. Make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss another juicy episode of Stop Money Anxiety Now. So have a great week, and we'll see you all next. Peace.
Bye, guys.